let's begin. And I'm very happy to announce the first speaker. Already see it's Marcel Boyer. He's emeritus professor at the Université de Montréal, a distinguished economist and co-founder of the CIRANO. So we are extremely delighted that he is here today with us to share a little bit about the history. Yeah, even though everything is very modern, but there's a long history with the CIRANO, and he will share this with us. His research has significantly contributed to the literature industry organization, public economics, and the economics of information. Marcel has been very influential in public policy debate and serving as an expert economist for various organizations, government bodies, contributing to debates on public-private partnerships, intellectual property, and environmental responsibility. So for his numerous scientific contributions to the science community and to the society, Marcel has received numerous prizes, such as, amongst others, the Chevalier l'Ordre du Québec, officer of the Order of Canada, received the Prix de Québec, and is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. Marcel is, as I said, he's a co-founder of CIRANO, and as such has played a pivotal role in its development and the development of the Claude Montmarquette experimental laboratory, to which he contributed a lot. The laboratory itself has contributed significantly to experimental and behavioral economics in Quebec, in Canada. And we are very honored to have you here, Marcel, that you join us and that you accepted to share some of your historical knowledge on the origins of the laboratory, this first experimental laboratory in the province of Quebec, and one of the first in Canada. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sabine and Yuan, for inviting me and coming from long past, period. But I would like simply to share about the origins of the Claude Montmarquette laboratory. Now, CIRANO is 30 years old, so it's not so old, but still, I'll start with a caveat that this is a very short presentation. I'm going to try to stick to 10, 15 minutes. And it relies on souvenirs and documents, some of which have faded or disappeared over time. I found out that not all the notes of meetings of the board of CIRANO are available. Some have been lost. It's kind of I found a new job in historical finding ways. At the periods of the dinosaurs almost. And I'm sorry if I missed some of the contributions, but still, let me go with the different stages by which this lab appeared. The first one is was a research group, involving mainly economists, but some other people also with the senior staff at Bell Canada. And this was developed by Robert Lacroix, who was a co-founder of CIRANO. In the early 1990s and even the late 1980s, I would say. And the group was meeting with senior, president, vice presidents of Bell for a certain period of time. And eventually the group thought that maybe we should expand that to other businesses, other firms, and also the Quebec had a program called the Liaison and Transfer Research Centers, which were whose mission was to develop links with the users of academic research, basically, and develop closer links with. It's a challenging task to bring together academics and business people because sometimes the cultures are not very close to each other. Then in the 1996, 1997, Jacques Robert and Robert Gérin-Lajoie. Jacques Robert is an economist. He was at University of Montreal up to the late 80s or early 1990s, then moved to HEC. And I learned that he is retiring in December at the end of the month. Tells you that. And with people from operations research and computational mathematics of CRM and CRT, these are research centers on mathematics and transport. convince a subsidiary of Bell to invest in research on auction and electronic commerce. And two big projects appeared, GAM, which appears here as the M10, and the Network for Computing and Mathematical Modeling was a group which was kind of was a federation of a group of research centers, mainly in mathematics and computer science and operations research. But CIRANO was part of that group. And so these two guys finally convinced a subsidiary of Bell to invest in electronic commerce because this was something for the future. I mean, now we're in 1996. And I just put a note here that Amazon was founded by Jeff Bezos in his basement in 1994. So we're kind of at the origin of this electronic commerce. Claude Montmarquette wrote in 1996, 1997 that I believe that applying econometrics, Claude was an applied econometrician, very, very well known, but he was doing applied econometrics. Did his PhD with Arnold Zellner at Chicago. And he wrote that I believe that applying econometrics on experimental data might generate stronger and more convincing results than when applying econometrics on data provided by a national bureau or institute of statistics. And Claude was giving a course at the University of Paris, Panthéon-Sorbonne, the Sorbonne. And in 1996, 1997, around that time, we switched to give a course in experimental economics. And that kind of fed his willingness to create this lab, basically, to work at least on creating this lab. Now, 1998, Bell Emergis informed us of its intention to finance the creation of an electronic commerce lab at ETS, is an engineering school in Montreal, which is not at CIRANO, wasn't a member of CIRANO at the time. Now it is, but it wasn't at that time. And then, I mean, this created a shock. So we finally, I mean, discussion with the president of Bell Emergis and Bell Quebec at that time, that, and also the people at the Network for Computing and Mathematical Modeling, that this research center ought to be at CIRANO, because ETS was kind of outside that realm of experimental economics and electronic commerce at that time. And finally, we succeeded in doing it. This was a big fight because Bell had already had an agreement with ETS and then had to say, we're not going to go forward with that. We're going to create that lab or finance that lab at CIRANO. This was a major coup, in a sense. I'm sorry if there are people from ETS here, but they've now become good friends of CIRANO, so it's okay. And then the board of this Network for Computing Mathematical Modeling, which was regrouping research centers in mathematics and computer science and operations research and CIRANO, which regroups at that time about 250 faculty members around Montreal, decided to locate the lab at CIRANO, which is also a major, and this was called the LUB, which Laboratoire Universitaire Bell, the C3E, commerce électronique and économie expérimentale. Only the 3E, commerce électronique and économie expérimentale, was born with twin versions, electronic commerce and experimental economics. So now the budget which was allocated, now we're in the 1998, I mean, at that time, basically. CIRANO had to expand because we were at that time located in another place on University Street. We needed to expand. I mean, there was another firm on the 25th floor. We were on the 25th floor, occupying basically 3/4 of the floor. And there was another business firm occupying 25%. We had to buy their lease, in a sense. And that's what we did. It cost us something like $120,000. Again, at that time, the construction installation, $320,000, equipment and programs, total investment, $888,000, plus the recurring costs basically estimated at $200,000 a year. So this was a $1.1 million project. And then we have the board of CIRANO had to agree with this kind of development, which was kind of a bit weird at that time because it wasn't very And then there's a resolution moved by Jack Lightstone of Concordia. So some people from Concordia here. He was the provost and vice rector of Concordia, supported by a private partner to create this Bell Canada University lab in e-commerce and experimental economics. And then during this, basically the same meeting of the board, they moved to allow CIRANO to buy back, the lease of this company, so that we would occupy the whole 25th floor. It was, and we built, the lab at the time. So now this is something I wanted to mention because this is a resolution where we are going to. Louis Vachon was at that time a vice president, I think, but became the president of the Banque Nationale, where we transferred the property rights relating to the GAM research project, which is in electronic commerce, to BCE, Bell Canada Emerges. And we were getting a promise of $1 million in royalties. And then when this has been, this was 10%, and then this would be another $1 million. But finally, and here I wrote also Amazon, that Time Magazine nominated Jeff Bezos as Person of the Year in 1999. So we're at that time. Unfortunately, Bell Emerges never delivered on this. And but anyway, this was a very difficult period. Now, electronic commerce. There's a working paper, 1998-03, where, and I just wrote here, because I'm not going to read that, but if the copy of my presentation is made available, then you can read it and you can have a look at that working paper. Basically, it says here that the electronic trading server is structured around two marketplaces, one for the negotiation of offers to sell and the other on the negotiation of offers to buy. Now, this is very close in spirit to the 2016 FCC broadcast incentive auction in the US, which was called a groundbreaking auction to realign the use of the public airwaves. And Auctionomics, which is a property of Paul Milgrom, Nobel laureate in 2020, and the FCC received an Emmy Award, which is kind for artists, but also technological contributing to the television industry, received an Emmy Award for the creativity and engineering design of the FCC's broadcast incentive auction, an event, and so on and so on. And Auctionomics is now dominating the industry of market design, including auction design. So we teach market design and auction design in classes and so on, but this is an industry now. It is applied, and at CIRANO, we were applying this at different, in different sectors, let's say, electronic design. Now we're in the late 1990s, but still, and I think that if you read the paper, you'll find very close similarities between that and what was done by the FCC in 2016. I mentioned this working paper by Jacques Robert and Claude Montmarquette because to say that Claude was also influential in developing electronic commerce, part of the Bell C3E lab. There was these two sectors, electronic commerce and experimental economics. So this was what I wanted to say about electronic commerce. It's been a very, very, very important part of this lab. And the team, which was involving people from mathematics, computer science, operations research, and economists, but led by the group of economists, we're working with business sectors in Quebec. One was wood chips. It appears somewhere in the, and the other one's for the auctions on pork, because the porks, we discovered they didn't like to travel too much. So the idea was to create an auction so that the pork raisers, is that what we call it? The power, and the people who were buying the ports wanted to be close to each other so that we would optimize the travel, so minimize the travel for the ports, basically, which contributed to their well-being, I think. I mean, knowing that they were going to be slaughtered. Now, in terms of experimental economics, rather than going through, I'll mention one person who was very influential was Claude Montmarquette from Karlsruhe at that time, who met Claude Montmarquette at Gate at the University of Lyon in February of 1998. And she was giving a class there in experimental economics, and Claude was giving a class in applied econometrics. And they met for the first time there, and they discussed and became good friends. And she came as a postdoc at CIRANO, as supported by Claude, and she produced numerous CIRANO working papers on experimental economics. In particular, there is one that I thought I would mention, Cooperation in Public Good Experiments, followed by a comment by Claude Montmarquette. So the working paper was written by Claude Montmarquette and her co-authors, but there was maybe only Claude for that paper, but anyway. There's a section at the end, comments by Claude Montmarquette, and I reproduce some of these comments here, and you can read it when you, but which shows that Claude had wanted to develop experimental economics as an academic topic sector here at CIRANO and at the university, but also being always having an idea or an objective applying the results to, and so we mentioned in this, the sectors to which this experimental economics could be useful for. And now I should mention here that Charles Bellemare was part of that research group with Claude Montmarquette and Claude Montmarquette, and he signed, in fact, some of the working papers that appear on the site of CIRANO, that Charles was a co-author of these. So finally, it's not so far away in the back, so far in the history of. And here in 2000, so Claude mentioned an experiment currently underway at CIRANO. So this was the beginning of the. I mentioned before that the lab here was created by the board of CIRANO in late 1999. It opened in the late spring of 2000. So it was almost operational at that time. And now two others who were also very influential in the building was Louis Lévy-Garbois from Paris at Panthéon-Sorbonne. He's the one who was leading the PhD program, let's say, in applied economics. I don't remember, but yeah, Claude was giving within that program a course, I said before, in applied econometrics, and then he switched to experimental economics. And as I said, and Claude was so often saying that, as goes the saying, you haven't understood the topic until you must teach it. Okay, and Claude wanted to teach a course in experimental economics so that we would learn really the intricacies of the field. And another co-author who was very influential is Kathleen Johnson, who is still at West Virginia University, I think, whom Claude considers a formidable experimentalist. Worked with Claude on field experiments and experimental studies on human capital, in particular on investment in post-secondary education. She produced numerous working papers at CIRANO and publications with Claude on based on the work done at the LUB C3E lab at that time, which is known. Now, I will conclude saying that what does it mean for the Claude Montmarquette lab? A major challenge might be to reactivate the electronic commerce program in the lab. Of course, we are now 25 years after Jeff Bezos' creation of Amazon, but who knows? I mean, and then the second major challenge is to boost the experimental economics program. I think that there's, as Claude said, I mean, this is, of course, now it has become almost an industry by itself, but still, I mean, I think that CIRANO could do even much more than we're able to do at this time. But for this, we need, it's a bright but costly future for the lab in CIRANO.